again, we don't follow the politics that much. Well, now we're forced to because of everything going on. And the interconnected theme throughout the conversations all 2025 is this. It was everything we're talking about over the last hour. Is this who's controlling the narrative? It's all that. jbpritzker. It's strange that not that name, it doesn't resonate or come up. And I was asking Same Boy this too, and it didn't. But the more I just unpacked who he was, he's that secret dark horse that is really the antithesis of Trump, who's championing a cause. Because he's not afraid to say bold things, but he's the antithesis of Trump, meaning he can match the boldness, but in the most articulate, sensible way. He's not just like Trump, who may just say things off the cuff. Everything is designed, and he's very articulate, very sensible, very just like, and in his budget speech, I believe back in February, a State of the State Union address to and in a budget. He ended off the speech, and this is February, so think about back in time. He ended off the address invoking the specter of Nazism in what's happening. And he even says it himself, I don't invoke the specter of Nazism lightly, but let me go off and just do it now.
I do not invoke the specter of Nazis lightly, but I know the history intimately. The seed that grew into a dictatorship in Europe a lifetime ago didn't arrive overnight. It started with everyday Germans mad about inflation and looking for someone to blame. I'm watching with a foreboding dread what is happening in our country right now.
And so then he went on this long tirade about how he would know best because he was behind building a Holocaust museum, and that's great work and stuff. But he says it in such a way where I've talked to the survivors of the Holocaust, and I essentially know kind of what unfolded day by day in 1930s. Yeah. And what's happening is what's happening today. So I would know best. So he does all the marks of a very good, influential speech.
So he's planting those seeds.
He's planting the seeds. So not only is he establishing his credibility to say such claims, he's establishing that credibility. And I'm not taking that credibility away. He might have the best credibility. But there's just this selective ignorance of what are all the other things that happened in 1930s that doesn't fit your narrative that today is a 1930s Nazi fascism regime.
If you think I'm overreacting and sounding the alarm too soon, consider this. It took the Nazis 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes to dismantle a constitutional republic.
Is it convenient to forget that Adolf Hitler was chancellor at the time, the leader died, and he also killed off all of his opponents in one night and took power for himself without an actual democratic election? Like, those things matter. If you're saying that we're in an anti-democratic time, just like that, well, Trump is the result of democracy in the most convincing way, where not just edging the population or the popular vote and winning, but it was a convincing win for bringing around a lot of independents like myself who couldn't make sense of the last 4 years, who looked at what was going on the left side, that their talking points were just stuff that looked like the optics. And even though Trump, his demeanor, composure, and everything wasn't something that resonated with me my whole life, at least he's talking about real points of life in society. And he won by that democratic result. And now today we're being, forced a narrative that this is an anti-democratic United States that we're living in, just like in 1930s. So we have to rise up against this fascism, because when children get snatched up off the streets, it has that vision of, the Gestapo and people. It's all intentionally designed. I spent the time, and I'm not taking him out of context, meaning I spent the time and sat through his long entire speech. I actually sat through it so I can take it in its full context. And then he gave a speech, I think it was in March. It was, again, I don't follow all the specifics, but it's like a Democratic luncheon or some sort of party in New Hampshire, I believe, where that's sort of historically the place where you audition, the place. And he had a very resounding speech, galvanize the troops, and again establish the specter of that we are living in a society that's being oppressed by a fascist regime, and we need to stand up. And he says very bold things like, if it sounds like I don't like Trump, if it sounds like I'm contemptuous, it's because I am. And you should be too.
And if it sounds like I'm becoming contemptuous of Donald Trump and the people that he has elevated, it's because I am. You should be too.
That's why I say that the left, the echo chambers, that they're told what to believe, and they have to adopt attitudes. But when it's time to unpack those things in a meaningful dialogue, it's a struggle. It's like no, you don't know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. He said in that speech, I don't obey a king. I don't intend to bend my knee to a king.
My oath is to the Constitution of our state and of our country. We don't have kings in America, and I don't intend to bend the knee to one.
Well, that's where the no kings
Where it came from.
resounding. Because I didn't know what do you mean by no kings? I know there was a protest. I know and everybody has a right to protest. But what was the theme? Like no kings. I didn't know where it came from.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it exactly came from that, but I'm pretty sure it came from that. Because what had happened is there's parts of that then get spread like the masses, and that truth, that seed, the inception of that specter, that reality is now a reality because our phones and our algorithms have fed us that no kings. Let's do it. He says in that speech, I have never done this. I don't ever do this, but I'm calling for action. I'm calling for people to protest.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They must feel in their bones that when we survive this shameful episode of American history with our democracy intact, that we will relegate their portraits to the museum halls reserved for tyrants and traitors.
Now, he never incited anyone to do violence. Because he's very articulate. He knows what he's saying. He knows all of his words are so calculated, so that he's implanting a message without ever being held accountable to saying something so blatantly wrong, like go out there and punch someone in the face. He's never said that.
Yeah.
Today he's being questioned. My understanding is that, especially in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's killing, that did you call Trump a Nazi and everything? He's like, no, I never called Trump a Nazi and everything. And when you look at it, it's actually true. He never called him verbatim, technically.
Specifically, yeah.
But you already did the inception already. Yeah. You've already established a sense of urgency here. And that's why there's such an emotionally riled up group of people who can't talk with their family members about things, about unpacking some of those things. He says himself that, I'm not using this platform to sort of audition I'm only doing this as an obligation to my job, which is that we need to save our society, our country from dictatorship. Yeah. That the democratic institution is being dismantled in front of our very own eyes. And if we do nothing about it, the country we love is... Those are very emotionally provocative words, but it's like the selective material for your memory. You don't recall that Germany was taken over by Adolf Hitler just by his own rule, by his own power, by killing people off, there may be some pattern similarity, but dude, like, come on. Like, you're so articulate, you're so composed. This wasn't a natural... This didn't come into you organically, like, oh my gosh, I'm really worried about this. This is happening. This was so by design and by...
The question is, do you really believe that? Is that something that you truly believe in your whole heart of hearts? And that's the mission that you've been set forth upon, to be the Paul Revere of announcing and making sure that people are aware and they understand
of the
that
circumstances. Yeah,
the circumstance that fascism has now hit our borders, in America, and it's taken over, and it's led by Donald J. Trump, and there's this fear of making sure that this gets stopped at all, at all corners, and before it becomes too late and too far for us to come back from it, Like, does he really truly believe that in his heart?
And the scary thing about the manipulation of lies and the manipulation of narratives is that when you become so good at it, you don't even know how to answer that question. Do I actually believe this? Because it's embedded your soul so much that your identity, the weight of everything, there's no real voice of conviction. There's too much duplicity in your heart now to really, because you might say you believe it because ultimately, I'm not sure if I believe today is 1930s Germany, but I ultimately believe Trump is a fascist. So I have to paint that picture. Who knows what you believe in your heart now? But it's also like, and you can believe whatever you want, but know the accountability of your words and what's happening.
Yeah.
Is it causation or correlation? Did he paint the picture and that caused some people to engrave fascism and the whole Antifa movement, to get radical? Or is it just a correlation? That's the life and the murkiness that we live in.